but I'm so incredibly bullish towards gold and silver right
We
now,
are too,
and
don't
of
worry.
course uranium and copper. That that I in a sense bet the ranch, and I think there's a lot of reasons to be bullish.
Moving on to precious metals, why hasn't gold and silver performed as we'd like? We have the most physical spending in record history and shortages. Why do you believe it's still where it's at?
Well, let me tell you something as we speak. I'm only doing something for the second time ever in my life, despite my wife telling me not to. I don't know if that's ever happened to you guys, but in 2018, after being out of the metals and out of working in the industry for 5 years at that time, I decided to plow basically my entire portfolio into metals related, gold and silver only at that time. Now, when we finish sometime today, if no later than tomorrow, I will have done that again. Only this time I've included things like uranium and copper because of their special attractiveness. But I've been at this 38 years, guys. I don't recall such a negative view overall by both the professional and the retail investment community at a time when the fundamentals arguments and a technical chart, which I sent you, we can look at sometime, never been better. Jim, you're putting it up. Here's a chart. I mean, I don't know what more one would want on gold than to have a 10-year cup and handle formation. And anybody, and I'm not a technician, I just use it as a supporting aid. It's not my driving force. It's kind of like the cherry on top when I've made a fundamental decision. Most cup and handle formations end up to the upside, not to the downside. So I have that going for me. Then I have a tremendous fundamental argument. And so the investment sentiment, if you guys can switch to that other chart that I've sent you, it's a good thing to look at because I've never seen the mood among metals investors and professionals in what the chart will show you is a despondency, depression era. That's where we're at, Ivan. We are not performing the way people think we should because everybody thinks we should, and it's coming like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the internet and the more active talking among people has shortened people's outlooks or willingness to hold and believe in something. When I entered the business, the average research report had a 3 to 5 year outlook. Now, if it's past 3 or 5 months, people think that's ancient. I'm not going to be in that long. So it's not a cop out, Ivan. I'll just say to you that you need to look at things when the chart shows you down at despondency and depression, and you need to sell them when it's up at euphoria. And that's where the stock market and bond market was last year. And gold and silver especially is so beaten up and so and one other thing let me point out, and I see this now in the emails that I'm getting in the last couple of weeks. A lot of those people also own mining stocks, particularly juniors. And juniors they're just annihilated. I own some of them as well. I didn't escape it either myself. And so the thought of the pain, can you end this pain owning this junior or juniors? Just get gold and silver to rally so they'll go up so I can get out. That again is another type of indication in the past, and I think history tends to repeat itself. We are really more at a bottom of a market than anything at top. So I'm sorry I went a long way, Ivan, but I'm so incredibly bullish towards gold and silver right
We
now,
are too,
and
don't
of
worry.
course uranium and copper. That I in a sense bet the ranch, and I think there's a lot of reasons to be bullish, and there's a lot of reasons to ignore the typical emotions that come when markets are at their best buying opportunities. And that's certainly what I think after 38 years. This is the single best opportunity I have ever seen for gold and silver.
Hey, I got to ask you, if you had to pick one silver, people love hearing your advice on stocks. If you had to pick one silver stock and one uranium stock, you said you're into those two commodities. Can you give us your top pick in each commodity right now?
Well, I don't like to do stock picks because I only discuss publicly what I'm doing for myself. And Jim, what I'm doing for myself, even what I just told you, going all in and that, maybe 1 or 2% other people should really do that. Because even if they can afford the financial risks that come, here's where most people go wrong. They can't handle the mental anguish of being wrong. Now, watch this. I've been wrong, wrong in the past. Now, you don't hear that often. Okay, that's not something that a lot of financial people speak about. But I've been wrong enough and lost enough to where my mind went a little bit cuckoo. So I don't want anybody else going cuckoo because I said, hey, I love this stock at all. I'll tell you what I've done. And if people are honest with themselves and do their own due diligence and decide mentally and financially they can afford to do it, then be it. From a silver play, I think there's a company that, I own a lot of shares, and I believe they've been on your show as well. In fact, I've seen some of the interviews. I love the guys. I'm at the twilight, near the end of a long career, had a lot of bad experiences in the metals and minings, but I finally believed I met a couple of people that was worth all the aggravation through. And from the CEO side, Warwick Smith is the exception to the rule in the junior resource market. He's not a young guy, but he's going to still be around a lot of years. I would be interested in what he would be doing. And of course, he runs American Pacific.
American Pacific, yeah.
Yeah,
that's the one with Michael Gentile is heavily involved in that one too.
Yeah,
right?
and that's the other person. I've been really, really blessed to become great friends with Michael. And far more important for me is our spiritual relationship than anything that's happening in the investment side. But Michael Gentile is just, he has a brilliance. He puts his own money where his mouth is, and he's as humble as anybody could be, given the situation and the blessings that the good Lord has given him. And also, I like what he does. And on the uranium side, you have to own Cameco. I mean, you cannot, listen, here's the only way in my book uranium could fail. The world implodes. We all have a super depression. We're all out,
could happen,
trying to sell apples for, to feed our families. Or there's a nuclear accident again of a significance. Yeah. Other than that, the uranium price could only go higher over time. You cannot meet the needs that the world is going to need, even if we only get to half of what people are predicting regarding electrical vehicles and all of that.
Right.
Nuclear energy and the switch in the political correctness of talking about nuclear just in 1 or 2 years has been 180 degrees. And here in the United States, where we need 50 million pounds a year just to keep the current nuclear reactors going. And what do we produce? Nearly
zero.
Oh, wow.
So is there a smaller exploration one that you like in? Yeah.
Kraken Energy. Yeah, okay. And I know you know of them as well. Yeah. I think the symbol in the US is UUSAF. Yes, I invested in every financing from seed all the way up to the most recent financing that they did at $1. So again, I find it very hard. Now, listen, that doesn't mean that every uranium stock is going to work, because a lot of these things, first of all, are in places I may not want to be. Second, the permitting and what it will take to become one could miss this entire cycle. Okay, so you just don't throw a dart. So that's why if you really believe in the uranium story, you even want to own something like Sprott, where you have exposure directly to the physical price, and then maybe a Cameco, and then a stock like Kraken Energy. Certainly, that's how I would go about it if I was still managing other people's money.
And Peter, the other commodity a lot of our people follow closely is copper. Do you have a favorite pick of copper that you want to share?
Well, yeah, it's my largest holding ever in my life. It's my most favorite stock. I really put my head on the mantle to be chopped off, first starting with the wife and then friends and all priests and former football players and everything that I have told about it. It's an extremely, to me, once in a lifetime opportunity. Arizona Metals is just a unique story. The copper story is phenomenal. We don't have time. It would take a whole show just to discuss why copper prices should go higher. The problem there is a lot of the copper that would be hoped to be found, that hasn't been found yet, is in areas of the world that I just don't think large capital is going to go after now. I think there's too much concern about that. And so right here in the good old USA is a company that clearly is already drilled, in my opinion. And I just saw for the first time with analysts who follows them conceptually note that their historic resource has gone from 6 million to over 20 million tons, and that alone would support the current price. But what they're first starting to drill now, and what they'll be drilling for the next 12 months, looks far more attractive on paper than the deposit that they've already proven up. So I really, really like Arizona Metals, obviously. And it's also a Michael Gentile story. He's the person that first came to me and told me the story about it in the early days.